understand.
Okay. All right.
So as we begin the service, we're going to first begin with the,
Rabbi,
go ahead.
if I could have your attention, please. At this time, we're going to begin the funeral services here at the graveside for Mrs. Judith K Hirsh. As we begin the service, I would ask if any of you have cell phones or any other noise-making devices, please turn them off at this time. Officiating the service here today is Rabbi Andrea London from Beth Emmet, the Free Synagogue in Evanston.
So as we begin the service, we begin with the ritual of cutting the mourner's ribbons, called cutting kriya. It used to be traditional that when one would hear about the death of a loved one, they would rend their clothing as a symbol of the rending they feel within their heart. Clearly, you do not need an external reminder to know how you feel at this time, but when you wear these mourner's ribbons, other people who see you will know that you are mourning and can offer you the appropriate comfort, as difficult as it might be in these days in which we need to be a little distance from each other. But the custom is to wear the ribbon on any item of clothing that you wear in the next week in this period of Shiva, if you're comfortable doing so. And we put the mourner's ribbons, over the hearts when we're mourning parents and also parents, again, closeness to our heart. So I'm going to ask you if you can, we'll stand for a moment here, and then we'll say the blessing, and then we'll give a little symbolic tear for the ribbon. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Dayan ha'emet. Bless you for the love God.
Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid, ki mimini balamot, lechen samach libi ve'egel kivodi, af b'sarishkol navetach. I have set the Eternal always before me. God is at my side, I shall not be moved. Therefore does my heart exult and my soul rejoice. My being is secure, for you will not abandon me to death, nor let your faithful one see destruction. You show me the path of life. Your presence brings fullness of joy. Enduring happiness is your gift. Death has taken our beloved Judy. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence there is lamentation. In their tears there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, be with them. For Judy's love that united us in life and which death cannot sever, for her companionship that we shared along life's path, and which continues through the tenderness of memory, the gifts of our heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. Adonai roi lo echsab minotesh yarbitzeni. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. As we just concluded the High Holy Day season with the holiday of Sukkot last week, we read passages from the book of Ecclesiastes. I read this one today. V'kol zman ve'et l'chochefetz tachat hashamayim, et laledet ve'et lamut, et latat ve'et la'kor natua, et lifrot ve'et livnot, et livkot ve'et lischok. For everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence, and a time to speak. And now we take these precious moments together to speak about the 87 years that was Judy Hirsh's life. A kind, nice person who loved being with people, who just was born as a natural social worker. We have a chance now to reflect on her legacy and to share memories of her. And so I'd like to invite Sarah and Becca, the grandchildren who are here, granddaughters, and they're going to be sharing some reflections, both of their own and on behalf of their cousins, Jake and Max.
Hi, I'm Becca. First, we're going to be reading the eulogies that our cousins Jake and Max wrote. So I'm going to start with Max's. Also, hi Jake and Max, watching. In elementary school, my teacher told my class to interview a grandparent. Then all the grandparents that were able came to visit us in class, and we presented about them. It was like show and tell, but with family instead of possessions. I remember being so happy that Grandma Judy was able to come. I was proud that I had a grandparent to represent the family to my classmates. Grandma Judy was always there for us. We visited her, she visited us, we chatted on the phone when we weren't together for holidays, and over the past 7 years, I got to see her often while we both lived in DC. While I can't fully encapsulate the hours we spent on the Northeast Regional together traveling home to New Jersey for Thanksgiving, or the advice and company we provided each other in DC, while I can't fully find the words to describe how wonderful, intelligent, and joyous my grandmother was, here are a few highlights I want to share with you all about my experiences with Grandma Judy. I was very young at the time, but I had vivid memories of driving past Soldier Field with my grandma and my brother Jake on the way to Shed Aquarium, the Field Museum, and Navy Pier. We used to visit her there for Camp Grandma, and I will always give her credit for introducing me to Evanston and Chicago because our trips to the Bean, the museums, and landmarks, and Carmen's Pizzeria. When I was about 12, she brought my brother and me a sailboat, and with the wind she put in our sail, I went on to become one of the top junior sailors on our lake. When I graduated from high school in 2013, I posed to take a picture with Grandma in my high school parking lot, and at that moment I was happy and proud she had seen me wear a cap and gown. It meant so much to me and our family that Grandma was always there to celebrate all of her grandchildren's accomplishments. That same year, she and I both moved to Washington, D.C. She was moving back after a long time to be closer to family, and I was just venturing out into the world on my own, so we both had something in common. DC was new to us. She made me feel comfortable. She would remind me in the nicest ways that she was a safety net for me. She said if I ever needed to get away from school or my dormitories, I was always welcome to stay with her. The thing I loved most about Grandma was how comfortable she made me feel. When I went to visit her for dinner in Chevy Chase, I knew I could talk to her about anything, and I did, and she would listen. She was a very good listener, which is ironic for anyone who's had a conversation with her in the past 2 years. Over that time, even though it seemed like conversations would go in circles, the questions she asked me were purposeful and direct because she cared and wanted to understand more about her family members' lives. I know she loved us all very dearly, and I'm so sad to not be able to share another ride home from dinner at Uncle Adam's with her. But it helps for me to know that she led a great long life. to share this moment celebrating her life with all of you, to hear your stories about her, and to know she will be greatly missed by many people from different walks of life. May her memory be a blessing to us all. All right, I have Jake's. Grandma comes to me in flashes and waves, often when I least expect it. The stucco siding of their house in Evanston, the breeze coming off of Lake Michigan as we sat in the sun outside the aquarium, the buzz, thank you, of wind-up toys, the coolness of her hammered silver necklace on my cheek as I hugged her, wisps of stories and songs she would sing to us or play for us, or record or send to us. Thanks to her and trout fishing in America, to this day, when I have to count the wheels on a big rig, I often do so in Roman numerals. I remember family phone calls in the car where we would call her on speakerphone and she would laugh in delight hearing all of us talk, probably over each other. I remember the phone calls over the last few years when she struggled to wrest the names and details from the fog of dementia as the memories swirled around her in those same flashes and waves. I wasn't as lucky as Sarah, Becca, or Max to see her as often in these last 7 years, but I know she was always there for me if I needed her. It's funny. In medical school, we learned all sorts of biology, but I never learned about the gene for being unable to make it through a meal without spilling something on your shirt, which I definitely got from her, or the gene for being able to connect with and comfort and care for every single person whose life touches yours, which I hope I will get from her. I'm incredibly sad that she's no longer here with us in person, but I can't wait for the next brush of wind or hum of a song or peal of laughter that will bring me back to her, if only for a moment. Right, and then this is from me and Rebecca. To us, she was Grandma Judy. Every summer when we were 5 to 13, we flew alone, because we were such big girls, to Chicago for a week of Camp Grandma. The week was filled with intense solo cup tower building, us laughing endlessly while playing with her claw grabbers, singing folk songs in the car on the way to Navy Pier in a car that would later be the one that we learned to drive on and was shared until I got in the accident. Sorry, Mom and Dad. As we got older, seeing Grandma became easier when she moved to be 10 minutes from us at home. Snap peas, Chinese food, and pickle bars, although not together, were staples of grandma-granddaughter meals. Us going to college meant fewer of these visits, but made it all the more special when we came home. And I was glad I was able to talk to her on Yom Kippur this year, and she asked if I was happy, because that's all that matters. If I'm studying what I want, have friends and family I love, that was all I needed. Grandma Judy raised the most amazing son that we get to call Dad. Dad, we know it must have been hard the past few years to keep a brave face, but you always managed to. We want you to know that your kindness and selflessness did not go unnoticed. The amount of love and patience you had for Grandma inspires us to be better versions of ourselves. We know Grandma was so proud of the son you were, and we are so proud of the father you are. We're sure you take after your father. To Grandma, we celebrate your life, cherish the amazing family that you've created, and remember our dance shows and cup towers in your living room. We love you, we miss you, and we hope you and Grandpa are back together.
Thank you to all 4 of the grandchildren for beautiful, well-written, well-spoken, and heartfelt remembrances. They're just beautiful. And now I would like to invite Judy's friend Naomi Feldman, who's going to be speaking to us via Zoom.
Hi, Naomi. It's Doug from the funeral home. Okay? If you just go ahead and speak, and you'll be heard at the service.
Okay. It's hard to imagine life moving forward without Judy as part of it. Homes changed, careers changed, partners changed, but Judy was a constant presence, ready to keep our connection strong and steady.
Sorry? She has to mute herself
On Zoom.
on Zoom.
Is this working, Doug? Can you
Well,
hear everything?
Yeah, there's some feedback. Do you have your iPad running with the service?
I have, yes.
Okay, can you please turn that off for a moment? You'll be able to log back on after you speak.
Okay.
Sorry, folks.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, much better, thank you.
Okay, yeah, I could hear the echo. I can see my relationship with Judy as a series of images. The first one goes back to 1959, I think, at the engagement party given by Judy's mother, Beulah, in her Hyde Park apartment. I can see Judy in a hot pink sleeveless A-line dress. She was very chic, with her brown hair gleaming and her face glowing with happiness. Fast forward 10 years to 1968 for Judy, fast forward to 1968 to Judy, Saul, Paula, and Adam living in D.C. In late June of that year, Hugh and I and our 3 kids, Jennifer, Lisa, and David, descended on them, taking advantage of their boundless hospitality, even though fitting 5 more people into a not-so-boundless space wasn't easy. What a week we had, often taking Adam and Paula with us while we saw as many sights as we could. Move on to one year to 1969. The Hirshes were back in the Midwest in their new home around the corner from us on Forest Avenue. From that time until our paths separated in 2015, that's 36 years if you're counting, Judy and I shared decades of life's joys and sadnesses. I can picture Judy and me on my front porch laughing over our respective pairs of reading glasses. More pictures. New Year's Eve dinners on Forest Avenue, later dinners with just Judy reveling in the surprise party Sal organized when Judy got her MSW degree from the University of Chicago. Judy in my kitchen helping to make the chicken salad for Jennifer and Todd's wedding. Sal and Judy hosting a pre-wedding party for Dan and me in 1989. Incidentally, Dan and I put our own wedding off for a week so we could help celebrate your Grandpa Morris's 100th birthday. And then there are the not-so-wonderful images, going with Judy to select the cemetery plots you're sitting at today, grieving at your dad's funeral. And then there are the final set of pictures, helping Judy organize her move out of Forest Avenue into her apartment, which was her last home in Evanston. Judy staying with us just before Adam arrived to drive her back to the East Coast. While I never saw Judy again, we stayed in close touch, comparing our new lives, hers in Bethesda and ours in Davis, California. We compared retirement communities, new friends, new apartments, and of course, new food. We talked often until carrying on a conversation became too hard for her. The important part of all these images is the steadfast nature of our friendship. Through all the changes in my life and hers, she was the constant, ready with her droll wit, her empathy, her insights, and her comfort. The homes may have changed, the cast of characters may have changed, but Judy's love and readiness to be there for me never did. I am forever grateful. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
I'd now like to invite Paula to speak.
First of all, it's a good thing this dress has 2 pockets because Mom always said nose and eyes, so keep them apart. Stay healthy. I'll remember Mom for her sense of humor and for her laugh. She was such a people person, and I am grateful that Adam and I got that from her. I don't think she thought of herself as brave, but I do. Going back for her master's in social work at the University of Chicago 20 years after getting her bachelor's, learning to play the clarinet and joining the New Horizons band after Dad passed away, even moving to Bethesda and leaving her life in Evanston behind when she turned 80. One of my favorite stories about Mom was the Tooth Fairy. The Tooth Fairy in our district paid 25 cents for a regular tooth, but paid double for extractions, and she also left poems. The income generated from my teeth ended with 8 extractions in preparations for braces. The note the Tooth Fairy left said, "You'll have to stop this. This is not funny. Or you'll have no teeth and I'll have no money. Love, the Tooth Fairy." Funny and clever. Classic Mom. I loved how she had a unique relationship with each of the grandchildren. She and Max had some sort of musical game they would play with rhythms and clapping. Only they knew the rules. She was amazed that Jake was so sure he wanted to be a doctor from the age of, I think it was 7. And she was so pleased for him that it worked out, but was thrilled to hear that it was everything he wanted it to be and that he was happy. It's like what Becca was saying, and happiness was the most important. She was warm and accepting and welcoming. I always appreciated the way she and Dad welcomed Kate and Alex into the family. And it means so much to me that Kate and Alex have happy memories of spending time with my parents in Evanston, and for Mom introducing them to such delicacies as matzo ball soup and latkes. Adam and I are so grateful for all the people who have reached out during this difficult time. It is amazing how many people have stories of just a little bit of advice Mom gave them that helped them deal with a situation, made something easier, or helped to solve a problem. Always the social worker, the staff at Brightview commented that she often helped calm down her fellow residents one-on-one. Although Mom died of COVID-19, as many of you know, she especially suffered these last few years from dementia, which seems to be the fate of the women in the Goldman lineage. Upon learning of Mom's death, a dear family friend wrote to Adam and me and said, "I feel sad that COVID got her in the end, though I know her life was becoming more difficult and likely to get even more so as the ravages of dementia took hold. Yet I always felt her personality shone through, and in so many important ways, she was not diminished." Adam and I are lucky in that Mom always recognized us even to the end. I'm the first to admit that conversations with her were difficult. Within the same conversation, she would repeatedly ask about my children, where they were, what they were doing. But then always, were they married? Did they have children? I mentioned this to Jake a while ago, and he shrugged and said, "Oh, I don't know. Sounds like every Jewish grandma to me." We laughed, but I realized it was something else. During one of these conversations with Mom, it occurred to me that I think she was actually relieved that she had not forgotten a really important event in the lives of her family. This is what I think upset her the most about the dementia, not remembering family events and occasions. I know we were all so important to her, and she loved celebrating happy occasions with us. I want this to be an occasion that will help us always to remember her fondly.
Adam?
So, I apologize in advance. 100% chance of rain and 0% chance I'll get through this without crying. And also, I apologize that mine's a bit longer than the others. I'm trying to read without glasses because my glasses fog up. Well, first, thank you all for being here. COVID-19 is a triple whammy. Not only did it kill Mom, but it prevented Paula and me from visiting her in the hospital, and now prevents a large group from gathering to mourn her loss in person. Yet we feel your presence over Zoom and your hugs of support, scattered physically though you are. Judith Ann Kitz was born in Highland Park, Illinois in June 1933 and lived in Chicagoland, as we call it for those who are not from here, for almost her entire life, except when she lived in the DC area for the decade of the 60s and again from 2013 until last week. She even stayed in Chicago for her education, graduating from the University of Chicago with her bachelor's in '56 and her master's in social work 20 years later, as Paula mentioned. She loved Chicago, its culture, and its architecture. I actually don't know much about Mom's upbringing. She didn't like to talk about it. Her parents divorced. She lived with her mother, Beulah, and her brother, Bill, and they moved around a bit. She wasn't very close to her father or to her brother until years later. I know she went to camp in New England because she would tell the story of how she made up a name for herself, and there are people out there who just know her as Joan. Judy met Solomon Hirsh, an attorney who had recently gotten out of the Army, at a Christmas party in 1957. They wed in April '59 and remained happily married for 40 years until Dad's death from leukemia in December 1999. Given her childhood experience, Mom didn't have a template for how a happy family is supposed to function. But Judy and Sal clearly found their way. They were devoted to each other and to Paula and me, always supportive of our activities. In high school, for example, I played trumpet in the marching band. Mom hated football, all sports actually. So although Dad would come for the entire game, Mom would arrive for halftime just to see me play, and then she'd leave before the game resumed. Mom and Dad had warm, caring personalities. They had relatives who didn't talk to each other and friends who didn't talk to each other, yet everyone was comfortable talking with my parents. They had many friends whom they saw regularly. One of my signature memories of childhood is my parents hosting New Year's Eve dinner every year with 4 other couples. Mom would make the same meal, meat fondue and chocolate torte with ladyfingers, and everyone would sit in the same seats around the dining room table each year. Seeing that scene year after year taught me the importance and joy of having lifelong friends. As a social worker, Judy specialized in young children and families. Even after she retired, she never stopped observing, listening, and talking. She loved to talk. She loved little kids and would point out and admire each and every cute one when we were out and about in recent years. She was always social, even at the assisted living facility. The other day, one of her last caregivers told me, "I have a smile on my face every time I think of her being my social worker and giving me therapy." She never stopped working. I smile when I see her photos. Mom cooked dinner every night, hosted dinner parties and holiday meals. Of course, I cannot skip over the story of the first time Judy made matzo ball soup. She and Saul were recently married and they were hosting their first Passover Seder. Mom didn't know to cook the soup first and add the matzo balls only at the end. When she opened the pot, she discovered huge matzo balls that absorbed all the liquid. So she compressed the balls with a spoon and all the liquid ran out. She perfected her technique though, and when I knew her, the matzo balls were always light. So much so that my cousin Barbara referred to Judy as Tanta Fluffy. Mom loved to knit and made baby blankets for her grandchildren, and for friends' grandchildren as well. Rebecca became particularly attached to hers, carried it everywhere, and called it the Judy gave me. Talk about endearing yourself to your grandmother. Mom and my sister could sit for hours knitting. Paula was always patient with Mom, helping her with patterns. Outside of family, Judy's true passion was music. My parents were regulars at the symphony and chamber music concerts. At age 66, after Dad died, as Paula mentioned, Mom decided that playing the piano would be too solitary, so she took up the clarinet and joined a senior band so she would have a musical group activity. She also sang in the senior choir in Chicago and at her independent living facility for her 6 years in Maryland. She loved to tap out rhythms with the grandchildren and sing with them. She knew the words to every nursery rhyme, camp, or folk song, even when dementia robbed her of many memories in her final years. In fact, 2 days before she died, I was on a Zoom call with her at the hospital. She hadn't verbally responded to anything I said until I started singing "You Are My Sunshine." She started humming the tune and then sang the lyrics word for word. Mom had a lot of anxiety and was very self-aware of her abilities and limits. Despite her 2 degrees from the University of Chicago, she always doubted her own intelligence, and she was a major worrier. Sometimes being self-aware was a good thing, like when she decided on her own at age 70 to move out of the house and into an apartment in Evanston, and at age 80 to move to Maryland to be close to family. Tough decisions, but she recognized it was time. So let's take a look at some of Mom's biggest fears and worries. 1, forgetting to turn off the gas on the stovetop. Never happened. 2, that my sister Paula and I would have a strained relationship with each other. This obviously stemmed from her own childhood family situation. Granted, she may have had some cause to worry for a few years when we were younger, but Paula and I have been very close for decades now, so cross that off the list. 3, that she would not have grandchildren. Obviously false. She had 4 beautiful, smart, and fun grandchildren whom she adored and who adored her back. She delighted in their achievements and, more importantly, their character. With Mom living in Evanston and Jody's mother in Highland Park, like the girl said, they would spend a week in Chicago every summer at Camp Grandma's, and a fun time was had by all. 4, that she would develop dementia around age 80, just as her mother and 4 aunts had. Okay, gotta admit, this one came true. Dementia is a horrible disease, but even with dementia, her character traits came through. I'd like to share 3 episodes that encapsulate the Judy experience these past years. First, Mom loved Chinese food, so when she came over for dinner, we would sometimes do takeout. My nephew Max would be there too. Mom would exclaim, "Oh wow, Chinese food. I never get Chinese food where I live, and I don't think I've had it since I moved from Chicago." Even though she had it in our very dining room several times in the previous months. Sarah, Rebecca, and Max would be laughing, telling stories and jokes all through dinner. Mom could not follow the conversation at all. Too many voices talking about the subject she knew nothing about. But she clearly delighted in seeing her grandchildren interacting in such a fun way. She would not remember any details of the evening the next day, but she knew that she had had a wonderful evening. She had food she liked, good family, and a dog to pet. Second, a year ago, Sarah surprised Becca at school on Halloween. One of Becca's friends took a brief video of the moment of the surprise, which included screams of delight, tears of joy, and hugging. The next day, I happened to be taking Mom to a doctor's appointment, and we had a long wait. I showed her the video of Sarah surprising Becca. Mom was clearly pleased and started asking questions. I didn't realize the girls were so fond of each other. Why did Sarah go there? Was it Rebecca's birthday? Did Sarah drive? What are they wearing? Remember, it was Halloween. It wasn't just like, what are those girls wearing? I answered all her questions and explained things. 5 minutes later, still bored and having nothing else to talk about, I said, "Oh, Sarah surprised Becca in Ann Arbor yesterday, and I have a video." I showed her the video. She responded with the same joy, the same questions, and even the same inflections. We did this routine 5 times while waiting for the doctor. Still worked a week later at another doctor. In recent years, Mom was obsessed with the folk song, The Old Gray Mare. And for those who are not familiar, I'll sing just a little bit. Oh, the old gray mare, she ain't what she used to be, ain't what she used to be, ain't what she used to be. The old gray mare, she ain't what she used to be many long years ago. Mom would use the song self-referentially constantly, and I mean constantly, whenever she realized she had forgotten something. She would hum it, she would sing it, she would pose the refrain as a self-mocking rhetorical question. Did I ever tell you about the old gray mare? Or, do you know the story of the old gray mare? These vignettes shed a light on Mom and dementia. They combine her love of music, of family, her sense of humor, her anxiety, the downsides of being self-aware, her incessant repetition, but also the ability, though thrust upon her, to live in the moment. She enjoyed things as they happened. It would all be very interesting from a scientific and psychological perspective if it weren't happening to your own mother. Mom also, we're getting back to the fears, Mom also lived in fear that she would have a long, drawn-out cancer disease and treatment, or that she'd be bedridden in a nursing home for months or years. COVID-19 has killed well over 200,000 Americans, with many more to come, but I'm at least grateful it took her quickly and painlessly. Mom's final major fear or worry was that she would be a burden to Paula or me, physically, emotionally, or financially. This was not just a regular Jewish mother thing. It goes to her self-awareness and her approach to others. She always wanted to give us space and to live our lives. And I can definitely say she was not a burden. It's never a burden to do things for someone you love. Thank you.
A testament to a life well lived is to have children and grandchildren who speak of you in those ways. All I can say to what has already been said really is amen. How beautiful. As I was talking yesterday to Adam and Paula, they shared so beautifully about the home in which they were raised. And as Adam talked about, she didn't have that kind of model and really wanted to create a wonderful home for them. And I can imagine their home on Forest with the four of them sitting around the kitchen table every night. No TV was allowed during that time. I imagine they're coming home from school and grade school and about this tradition they had every year, which was that Adam and Paula were each allowed to invite a teacher to come over one day for lunch. And Judy would handwrite a note to them, and Paula and Adam would choose what the teacher would have to eat. And of course, like good Chicagoans, they watched the news at night, first the national news with Walter Cronkite, and then, as everybody who grew up in the 70s in Chicago knows, with Bill Curtis and Walter Jacobson for the local news. And to imagine the seders and holiday dinners at the Hirsh household as well, that Judy was a person who loved to have people over, and these were joyful occasions. But what I liked most about the stories you told, which neither of you shared, so I'm going to share this story, is of the felt menorah that she made for Hanukkah, which she hung on the mantle. There was a felt menorah for each of you, and there were 8 candles on it, and on each candle there was a ring, and she would hang a little gift for Paula and Adam on each of those rings, a Frango Mint, a wind-up toy, and every year apparently you got tape as well.
Scotch tape. Yeah.
And then she created a home that wasn't just welcoming and warm for the two of you, but for your friends. And as you said about her marriage to your dad, they complemented with an E and complemented with an I each other. Saul and Judy enjoyed traveling to Italy and Israel, with Beth Emmet, London, Paris, China. Family in California, they also enjoyed visiting. And we've heard about Judy's love of folk music and her ability to remember every word to every song. I think it's a wonderful testament to her personality too, and to who she was, is that after Saul died 21 years ago, that she continued to reinvent herself, to learn a musical instrument and to move several times and to keep up with friends and family and to get so much joy from watching her grandchildren grow up. Judy leaves a tremendous legacy, most importantly, her children and her grandchildren, a good home, that she was a good listener and knew how to connect with people. Oh God, we pray that Judy's memory will always be for a blessing as we continue to share the stories about her life, laugh at those moments as we have done today that give us great joy in our heart, and to live by the legacy that she has set for us, a legacy of love, of laughter, of warmth. In these ways, oh God, Judy's memory will always continue to bless us. Zichrona livracha. God, you give us loved ones and make them the strength of our life, the light of our eyes. They depart and leave us bereft on a lonely way. But you are the living fountain from which our healing flows. To the stricken look for comfort and sorrow laden for consolation. O God, we see life is through windows that open on eternity. We see that love endures and the soul endures as you, O God, endure forever. We see that the years are more than grass that withers, more than flowers that fade. They weave a timeless pattern in a world that is a dwelling place of your love and of your glory. I now invite everyone to rise as we continue together with the memorial prayer. El Malay Rachamim Shalchen Bamromim, Hamtse Menucha Nechonata, Chat Kanfei Ashchina, Im Kerushim Tehorim Kazara Kia Masirim Et Nishmat Yehudit Bat William Be'ula, Shal Chal Olamam, Bal Harachamim Yastirah Beseter Kenafav Olamim, Yisra B'Torah Chaim Et Nishmata, Adonai Hu Nachalata, B'Tanuach B'Shalom Al Mishkava B'Nomar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Judith, the daughter of William and Bula, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence. Let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. You can be seated. I'd like to start to lower. Thank you. Hatzur tamim polo, ki chod rachav mishpat, el emunah ve'en avel, tzadik ve'yesharhu. Hatzur tamim b'chol po'al, mi omar lo ma tifal, hashalit lo mata v'ma'al, memita mechaye merid she'ol ve'ya'al. Hatzur tamim b'chol ma'aseh, Mi omar lo ma ta'aseh, tzadik ata Adonai la'amit la'achayot, asher biyadcha pikadon kol ruchot, chalila lecha zichronenu limchot, biyu na einecha barachamim, aleinu pekuchot, ki lecha adon harachamim ahaslichot. God is sure, our immovable rock. All God's work is upright. Who can say, what is it that you do? The Eternal governs what is above and what is below, overseeing both the valleys of death and the heights of life. God is sure, our immovable rock. Who can say to God, what will you do? You are righteous in your dealings in both death and life, and every soul is in your trust. Adonai Natan, Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach. God gave us the life of Judith Hirsh. God has taken her away. Blessed be the name of God. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher yatzar etchem b'tzalmo, v'zan v'chelkel etchem b'tuvo, v'hemit etchem badin, v'netah b'tochechem chayei olam. Baruch atah Adonai, dayan ha'emet. We bless you, eternal our God, ruler of the universe, who forms us in the divine image, who nourishes and sustains us in your goodness, who causes all of us to die, and who implants immortal life within us. We praise you, O God, judge of truth. Eternal is your might, O God, all life is your gift. Great is your power to save. With love you sustain the living, and with great compassion you give life to all. You send help to the falling and healing to the sick. You bring freedom to the captive, and keep faith with those who sleep in the dust. Baruch atah Adonai noteh b'tochenu chayei olam. We praise you, O God, who implants eternal life within us. Jewish tradition teaches us that it's a sacred obligation to give our loved ones a proper burial. And in fact, it's considered by the rabbis to be one of the most holy things that we do, because it's something we do for someone we love and they can never pay us back. But we do it out of the love that we have in our hearts. As we've just heard so beautifully in all the eulogies that were spoken today, that Judy had so much love for all of her family, and they in turn had a tremendous love for her, and was just thinking about all the selflessness that all of you gave to her over these many, many years. And I know now that this is that final act, that it's one of our mitzvot to honor father and mother. And what I've seen today, Adam and Paula, is just how beautifully you have honored your mother, not only at this time, but in all the care that you gave her. And Adam, to hear your daughter speak about you in that way, clearly, midor lador, from generation to generation, that's been a value that has been taught. And I just wanted to uplift that because I was so moved. And there's not any value that's more important than that. I really don't know. So your family is very, very, very special, and it's very unique. And so we're going to put the cover here on, and then afterwards, each of you will have an opportunity to put some earth onto the grave. The custom is to put at least 3 shovelfuls. That 3 represents that we're doing something with intention. It's also customary to turn the shovel upside down when you shovel the first shovelful. And the reason is that it's actually difficult to put the earth on. And that we know that although we need to say goodbye to Judy today, we do it so reluctantly with heaviness of heart, and that's what's symbolized there. So first time it's upside down, and then the other 2 shovelfuls can be with the shovel turned in the correct direction. And then afterwards, it's not customary to pass a shovel on to someone else, but to actually place it back into the earth. And the symbolism behind that is that our 3 shovelfuls, it's as if we have filled the entire grave ourselves with those 3, and so we put it back into the earth. Sometimes the shovel will fall. That's okay. We'll help you with that and for the next person in line. I don't know if we're going to be able to do both sides there, just one side here. Yeah, it looks like. So obviously because of the rain, we'll just try to do a short line so people don't have to stand in the rain, waiting for a long time. And after everyone's had an opportunity, we'll ask first the family and then everyone else. Then we'll gather back together and say the mourner's Kaddish. So we'll do that at the end. Okay. So anybody who is going to participate in the burial, you must wear gloves, so they'll be bringing around gloves for everybody here.
If others would like to come up.
Anyone else wishing to participate, please step forward.
She moved into an apartment. She moved into her sister's place and took over her car. So it's
Look at the gloves still.
I don't know, I stuck a pair.
Oh, do you need a pair? Yeah, just use the box.
Thank you. What? Oh, tomorrow. Tomorrow morning. Early afternoon. We're having dinner and also a hat tonight. Lunch plans. I don't know that we're not going to hear it, so I want to join us wherever we end up.
So we're going to gather back together for the mourners' Kaddish. I think you should have it on the cards that they distributed so people can get those out. I'll get you another one if you need it, just to make sure everyone has one. And we're going to stand together for the mourners' Kaddish. As we say together, Yitzgadal, Yitzgadash, Meraba, Ve'alma, Divrach, Rute, V'yamlich, Malchute, V'chayachon, V'yomechon, V'chaye, D'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala, V'zman Kari, V'imru, Amen. Yehesh Meraba, Mevarach, Le'olam, Olalme, Almaya, Yitzbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitzpa'ar, V'yitromam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shmei, D'kudusha, B'roichu. Leila min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, huyaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. O God, who makes peace in places far beyond our knowing or understanding, send peace to all those who mourn, and comfort to the bereaved among us, as together we say, Amen. And O God, we pray, Aleha HaShalom, that Judy should rest in peace and that her memory will be for an abiding blessing. As we now turn to the family, those of you who are in mourning in me, say these words, these traditional words of mourning. Hamakom yinechem etchem b'torch sha'ar avlei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. O God, the place of peace and comfort, may God comfort you among all the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. Amen. You can sit down here for a moment.
Oh, thanks. As we walk out, I have my mother, when the girls were little, made tapes, cassette tapes, if you remember those, of songs for them. And I just thought I recorded it to my phone. I thought we would just finish and not to stay for the whole thing of Mom singing to the girls in the tape. She made a tape for each girl when they were babies. Whoop. Oh, sorry. I'm covering. Where? What? Oh, just stick it down there.
Young people tech support.
Yeah.
Mic sideways, yeah. Just like that. And then cancel.
These are songs for Sarah, sung by Grandma Judy. Ba ba, black sheep, have you any wool? Yes sir, 3 bags full. 1 for my master and 1 for my dame. 1 for the little boy who lives in the lane. Ba ba, black sheep, have you any wool? Yes sir, 3 bags full. Here is one train song I know. The train is a-comin', oh yes. The train is a-comin', oh yes. The train is a-comin', the train is a-comin'. The train is a-comin', oh yes. Who will be the engineer, oh yes. Who will be the engineer, oh yes. Sarah is the engineer, Sarah is the engineer. Sarah is the engineer, oh yes. Who will be the conductor, oh yes. Who will be the conductor, oh yes. Daddy's the conductor, Daddy's the conductor. Daddy's the conductor, oh yes. Who will take the tickets, oh yes. Who will take the tickets, oh yes. Mommy will take the tickets, Mommy will take the tickets. Mommy will take the tickets, oh yes. The train is a-comin', oh yes. The train is a-comin', oh yes. The train is a-comin', the train is a-comin'. The train is a-comin', oh yes.
That's awesome. Is that it? I was impressed you had a cassette player to tape.
Well,
Play that to record it.
When we were cleaning out the basement, the girls wanted to throw out all the cassette recorders. I said, no, we're keeping one. Just, various tapes. We want to make sure. So we have one boom box that still
Oh my
plays.
God, because we would not have that one.
And yes, he just said boombox.
You have to walk down the street for that.
One final note, folks. This does conclude the service here at the cemetery. Anyone wishing to stay and watch them cover the grave is welcome to do so. For those watching online, a particular note, please pay attention on our website that you're currently on. The family has asked that memorial contributions be made to Cure Alzheimer's Fund and the Evanston In-School Music Association. That information's on the service folders for those that are in attendance. Online, it's on the website. The final note is, because of technological issues, when Naomi was speaking, we were forced to mute the feed to all of the people that were watching, just for the portion that she spoke. There will be a recording of this service within a few hours on the same website you're on now, and I invite you to please go back and listen to Naomi's beautiful, significant, and poignant words. Thank you.